Hey, you crazy mofos. The creak of the door and the sound of the steps mean one thing. This is Bill Johnson, Leatherface 2, Bubba, from Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2, and you are listening to the Timo and Harley Show. Oh, yeah.
Welcome to the Timo and Harley Show.
Thank you for listening to the Timo and Harley Show. I am Timo. Over there is my partner in mind crime, Mr. Ben Harley. Say hello, Harley.
What is happening, people?
Ben, happy birthday to me, Harley.
Yes. Happy birthday to
My birthday in the space-time continuum, Mr. Ben Harley. My birthday is Friday. It's Friday.
That's right.
Yes. It will be a tender 48. Fine year. Wow. That was a fine year.
It's a fine year, Timo.
Yes. My ages are becoming fine years. You know
Yes,
you're in trouble. Like back when I was 20, right? Back when I was 23, I didn't really think that kind of thing. I didn't say, 23 was a fine year, especially when we're about ready to come upon a 23. So,
oh man.
Yes.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, I know. So we're getting older, Mr. Ben Harley. We're not getting younger, but we are getting smarter and devilishly handsome.
Yes, we are.
It's just insane.
I mean, Tim, it's just insane, right? Exactly.
We're like the Raquel Welches of the man world, don't you think?
That's true. Yeah. Oh, definitely, definitely, buddy.
Right.
It's not easy, Tim. It's just not easy.
No, not at all.
Someone's got to do it, though.
It's not easy being mean. It's not easy being mean, Miss Ben Harley. But somebody has to. Yeah. Speaking of that, hello to the deep thinkers. Hello, deep thinkers out there.
Hello, deep thinkers. Hello.
Hope everyone is doing well. Mr. Ben Harley, there has been an earth-shattering disturbance in the Force over the last week.
Oh, yes.
Big time. Now, this hasn't really affected your gracious co-host here, Timo, too much. Too much. But the rest of the world that pays attention to like the what's going on at large, there's been a huge disturbance. Apparently, the film Godzilla VS Kong is streaming into people's homes as we speak on HBO Max.
Yes, sir.
And
people are going bananas. Yes, I did that too. Whoa.
I did see how you did that. They're fired up. They're fired up, and they're going bananas. So absolutely. Yeah. So
attaboy, Tim.
So my gracious co-host over there, Mr. Ben Jam and Harley, is of course a giant Godzilla fan. See what I did there? And our pal and pal, and our pal and pal to the show, friend of the show, Mr. Marc Diamond from the Dwarves. Yeah. He's also a giant. That's right. He's also a giant Godzilla fan. So here's my thing. I'm going to give this up right now. I've said this on the show before, but let's just say it again for anybody who didn't hear it before. I myself love the old Godzilla movies. You know that.
You do.
I have them all on Blu-ray. I love them. I will watch them dubbed. I will even watch them subtitled.
Yeah, I know.
And even Snooty McSnootingtons are like, nah, I really want to watch that one dubbed. It's more fun watching dubbed. And I agree. They're more fun watching these movies dubbed dubbed. But there's a certain something different about it when they are subtitled. You get a little bit of a different feel of the stories and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so that being said, I do not accept my kaiju CG. Just don't do it.
You don't. No,
I don't do it.
You like the suits.
I like the suits. Anything after Godzilla versus the Smog Monster, I'll take that back. Maybe Godzilla 85. I might throw that in there. I thought that. I kind of thought that movie was trying to be a bookend to Godzilla in a way, bringing back Raymond Burr, who was in the United States version and all that stuff. I thought that might have been so, but I don't accept this. That being said, I know a lot of our listeners. I know Ben Jam and Harley. I know Mr. Marc Diamond love Godzilla, and they have been keeping up with Godzilla, keeping up with the times. You guys are modern, cutting edge hipsters.
Yeah, that's true.
Very hip. That's right. So what I thought we would do here is I actually did an interview with Mr. Marc Diamond. I have been threatening to have him back on because he wanted to talk a little bit more about a couple of sharksploitation movies. Really what it was is I think he wanted to talk about Mako. Because we didn't really have a chance to talk about Mako. We had all watched it after I did the first.
There's a lot talked about.
There was a lot to talk about. And it's funny because it's almost like the same review me and you gave. It's pretty funny. That will be next week. So I thought this week, though, what we did is I am going to have an exhibition match. A friendly exhibition sparring match. How about that? So, ding, 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 ding. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to have a battle of the reviews of Godzilla vs. Kong. In this corner, we have the Fresh Prince of Darkness, the Git Fiddle player of the Dwarves, Mr. Marcus Diamond.
Diamond.
Yes. In this corner, we have, hailing from Toodly-Doo, Ohio, we have the Jeep driving artisan, Benjamin Harley.
Hey, Harley.
Okay, so enough silliness. So as much as all of us on the planet have a lot of differences and things like that, especially these days, are being highlighted with social media and whatnot, you and Mr. Marc Diamond have something very strong and powerful in common. You both love these giant movies, and I know one thing, you're both rooting for Godzilla. So this is going to be a friendly sparring match. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to we're going to have Marc on here right now. We're going to have him talk about his thoughts on Godzilla vs. Kong. And then we're going to come back and then we're going to have your thoughts on it. And then we're just going to let the audience kind of dissect that as they will and decide if they want to see it or decide whether or not they agree or disagree with you two guys. How about that?
Okay. That sounds great, buddy.
A bit of a warning, though. A bit of a warning. This is going to be riddled with spoilers. Everyone has pumping into their home. Everyone has this movie pumping into their home. So in order to discuss this in a meaningful way, it's going to be riddled with spoilers.
Yes.
Okay. So fast forward past all this if you do not want to hear spoilers for Godzilla versus Kong.
Yes.
All right. Well, let's start up. Come out fighting! Ding, 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 ding. All right.
Ding, 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 ding.
First up, Mr. Marc Diamond. Here we go. I'd like to welcome back a friend of the show, frequent guest to the show, the Fresh Prince of Darkness from the band The Dwarves, Mr. Marc Diamond. Hello, Marc.
Hey, Tim. How you doing? Glad to be back.
Well, and I've been kind of teasing this on the show for quite a while. We were talking a few months ago about some sharksploitation movies. And then after we got done with that, I think all of us had kind of discovered like Mako, Jaws of Death, and started talking off air about other things that we completely missed while we were doing the first conversation about sharksploitation movies. So we wanted to have you back on and talk about that. However, also the new, is it Godzilla versus King Kong? Is that the name of? Is it King Kong versus Godzilla or Godzilla versus King Kong?
You know, I was worried about that. Fortunately, they did it right, and they put Godzilla first. Godzilla versus Kong. And if you're really going to get into semantics, they did not call him King Kong. Just Godzilla versus Kong.
Okay. So this has been released now in theaters, and also you can watch it, I believe, right now on HBO Max. So what I thought would be fun is if, before we get to talking about a couple of extra of the sharksploitation movies that we missed, talk to me about the Godzilla versus Kong, because I know Harley's watched it and I know you've watched it. So I'm going to interview both you guys and let you guys let me know what you thought about it. So give me your thoughts here on Godzilla versus King Kong. What'd you think?
Okay. So, first off, been looking forward to it for a long time. This is not to say that I thought it was going to be good, because most of these movies aren't very good.
Right.
But with the pandemic and whatnot, this was something this was a date that I had. I've had this date for a year. I've been, we've been kind of fucked for a year.
Right.
So it's something to look forward to. And, sure, I could have woke up in the morning and watched it, but instead, me and my daughter turned it on at 12:01 when they started showing it, and we watched it. It's fun. As usual, there's no real attempt to make anything even slightly attached to reality.
Right.
The people are there just sort of to move the monsters along into fighting. Mm-hmm. But I'll put it this way: in terms of the last few years, you had the 2014 Gareth was it Gareth Edwards?
Yeah.
That movie, a little more philosophical, had some more ideas in it, but ultimately it didn't have enough Godzilla. Mm-hmm. It was also like the darkest movie ever. You just couldn't see anything. It was so dark. But the Godzilla was quite satisfying. It didn't care about people. It was just a force of nature, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
But, ultimately the movie was kind of a bummer. There wasn't enough Godzilla. Skull Island, I really enjoyed that. Mm-hmm. I thought that was a real fun thing. I thought setting it in the, post-Vietnam 70s gave it kind of a deja vu feel. They used music well. It looked good. The ratio of Kong to other monsters was correct. Mm-hmm. I thought that was a real good entry. Mm-hmm. The last one, Godzilla King of the Monsters, this is, whereas the one movie is what I call a dark movie. That's one of those blue movies where everything's blue. Mm-hmm. And everything's just kind of blue.
Right.
And that movie, had just a completely ridiculous plot line. But you did get to see a lot of monsters fighting and whatever. Sure. It was silly, but anyway. So that brings us to this one. This one, the plot line's a little more coherent.
Yeah, how did they connect it? Did they actually connect them to the other films directly, or did they just take the characters and throw them together?
Well, they did do a couple of things well. People have been arguing online, for years now. Well, Godzilla's just so much bigger than Kong. And in Skull Island, there is mention that he's a juvenile. That movie is set right after the end of Vietnam, probably like around 74 or something like that, mm-hmm. 75. Mm-hmm. So this is in sequence, is 40 years later or whatever. So he's had time to get bigger. So they addressed that in a way that I found plausible, mm-hmm. since they had mentioned that he was a juvenile. So he's much bigger.
Right.
They do an okay job at that. It happens, a few years after the last movie and whatnot. Right.
Well, I was wondering if it was like one of those, like the comic book movies where they make sure that you are definitely in the same storyline. Yeah. Do they make sure that that you're in the same universe as those other films?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Gotcha.
Yeah. And they do establish that, I thought, pretty well. It also addresses how Kong got so big. It's been 40 years and grew up and whatever.
Right. Okay. Yep.
So they link that well. Things I liked about it. You get a great scene shot in daylight. It's not blue. It's not dark.
Right.
And in the last one, everything was either in the Arctic, so it was blue, or it's all gray. It was just one of those movies. You can never really see what's happening. That scene looks great. Now, I'm an old school guy. I like the old Godzillas. I miss the man in the suit,
sure,
and stuff like that. But this one looks good. It does look good. Spoiler alert now, for people who haven't seen it.
Right.
There's basically, I won't say how it ends. There are two fights between Kong and Godzilla.
Okay.
And one of them is the thing on the boats. That looks great. Mm-hmm. The entire lead up to this movie, all the advertising, the world needs Kong. We need Kong. Why is Godzilla me? Only Kong can save us. There can only be one king. Kong bows to no one. I was getting a little annoyed at that. Everything was just so Kong heavy. Then you go back to like the 1968 King Kong versus Godzilla, which, there's always the rumors that in the Japanese version, Godzilla won, and mm-hmm. the American version, King Kong won, which wasn't really true.
No, it's a myth.
But this thing, it all skewed very pro-Kong, mm-hmm. Which is, there's a reason why people cuddle monkeys and furry animals more than they, cuddle lizards. I get that.
Right.
But to me, it's a Godzilla movie. So let it be said that they fight twice and Godzilla wins both times.
Okay.
So I like that.
Okay.
In the first fight, the only reason Kong survives is because people helped him. And even then, Godzilla saw that he had bested him and swims away. I enjoy that. In their second fight, the same thing. Godzilla wins. Godzilla could have killed him, sees that he's bested, walks away. So me as a Godzilla fan, there's no doubt that Godzilla won both fights. Then at the end, something else happens. We all knew they'd come together and fight a common enemy. That happens, and
So it allows. So basically, for Godzilla not to kill King Kong when Kong is down, allows for there to be some sort of pathos for King Kong, or you start feeling for him, and then that's okay whenever they team up to fight the common enemy. So that's just kind of encapsulating basically how it's the story arc, at least.
Yeah, and for me, and again, it's all kind of silly popcorn thing.
Sure, right.
Watching these movies, I was just happy to see that clearly Godzilla, when put in a fight against King Kong, won both times. Then at the end, he has to get Kong's help, and they fight something else.
So
and,
Kong gets to save face. He gets to save face because Godzilla needs him.
But in its own stupid monster way, it's plausible, sort of the way they kind of team up. They never, I don't know if you remember like the Alien vs. Predator movie.
Yeah.
Where, that was a silly movie, but the fights were kind of cool. But then there's that scene where the Predator and the girl kind of hold hands and they run off, together. Which is kind of like, all right, man, in this movie, they kill the thing together because they have to, but they're clearly not friends, and they're not going to hang out, and they're not going to go get a beer together.
Right.
They're not going to both go back to Monster Island and, be chill.
Right.
They don't like each other and whatever, but, in their little monster brains, they figured out this is probably a good way for them both to live. But
how long is the movie? That's the other thing I want to know.
Okay, that's another good thing. It's not that long, It's I think it was like an hour 50.
Okay.
Hour 53. So it's as much as I love Godzilla films, if somebody could write one where the people had something to actually say,
right.
Then you could watch it. Because they cannot do that, and it's all CGI. It doesn't need to be 2.5 hours long or 3 hours long or whatever. So it's mercifully short. Pacing wise, they re-explore the idea of Middle Earth. I think that kind of goes on for a bit too long.
Okay.
But the two fights are good, aesthetically, and they're fun. You see both monsters look pretty good. And
did it look like they were going to try to expand on this more?
Well, that's interesting. I was watching with my daughter. Kids are now brought up to wait until after the credits to get the teaser for the next movie.
Right.
Skull Island had one. King of the Monsters had one. This one does not have one, which I thought this might have been, the most satisfying entry. I mean, again, that doesn't mean that it's necessarily a good movie. Mm-hmm. But, for what it is, it fulfilled it. Mm-hmm. They didn't have the after credits teaser. And I had read somewhere that the license to Legendary from Toho for the character expires after this movie. Obviously. So, which might have been why. Obviously, everything changes with money.
Sure.
If the movie does well, of course, they'll renegotiate and do another one.
Right. Exactly. But they didn't have, so there was nothing that was saying that there is definitely going to be a follow-up to this. They kind of just left it at the end of the movie then.
Godzilla swims away. Kong, they show that they get him back to, where he's going to live. The monsters aren't friends by any means, but they seem to have accepted each other. Mm-hmm. Or whatever,
Right.
And also, there's a series of movies where, Godzilla ones were looking cheap, the Japanese ones not great. The last entry, the Shin Godzilla, did incredible business over there, did incredible business. It won the Best Picture. So that was a highly respected movie. So I would imagine that they're going to do something with that again. But, one thing that you would like, which I really enjoyed a lot, I always thought that Godzilla looked cool in water. He's basically a big marine iguana. One thing which I enjoyed in this is that it's kind of like an homage to Jaws. They use the dorsal spike thing. You see it prowling around like the shark.
Oh, very good. Yeah.
So I actually kind of, enjoyed that. There's points where, they're looking at it. You can see the fins coming.
Right.
They had alluded to that a little bit in some of the other movies, but in this, to me, it seems like an obvious. There are some weird references in this. There's a bit that seems like an homage to 2001, the Kubrick film.
Well, so what do you think? So, for me, what I'm doing here is I'm asking you, and I'm going to ask Harley, because I think Harley's watched this too. Now I told you before we started doing this too. I'll watch this eventually. I know I'll watch it. I know I will. But the thing is I have such a hard time because I love the old 70s, 50s to 70s Rubber Monster movies. It's sort of the reason I watched it. Was the reason that everybody thinks it's cheesy and silly. And what I don't like is I don't like when movies get serious and then they're fighting. The Wolfman remake, to me, turned into a superhero movie because it ended up being like a dark movie, but then it ended up hinging on a superhero fight at the end between two monsters. And as much as I might have wanted to see that when I was 12, I kind of just want to see a good horror movie right now. Stuff. I don't want to see that. And for like Godzilla, I think I probably enjoyed the first one a little bit more because the reasons you guys didn't enjoy it. Because it was more of a horror film. It was more like what is this? Let's find out who it is. Oh, it's a big monster. What are we going to do to kill it? And so for me, I could almost accept that a little bit more than the second one where they spent half the movie where he's fighting other monsters, which I used to like. Again, I liked it when I was a kid, but it was fun to watch those rubber monster guys roll on fight and stuff like that. I can't get into, it's like I said, I can't accept my kaiju as CG. And I have not been able to do it. But as far as the other movies, like from, let's say 1 to 5, what would you give this one up against the other ones that have come out?
Of the recent ones,
yeah.
I think this satisfies what it was attempting to be the best. King of the Monsters was just all over the place, and the color palette was weird, and the plot line was totally stupid. I liked that first one, the 2014 one, but it was more a movie about the Mutos than Godzilla. But I think you make a good point, though, that there was parts in that were actually scary. There's nothing in this that's scary.
Okay.
Even when you look back at like some of the later entries, I think one of them was that what was it called? They called it GM. It was the All Out Monsters Attack.
Right.
That had scenes that were really scary. It still suit, a guy in a suit. But there's that scene where it's, Godzilla's stomping around and there's a girl in like total traction in a hospital bed. Or, her foot's like tied up in the air and the whole thing. And Godzilla's coming and she knows she's just the building's going to get stomped. Right. And somehow he just walks by her. And then she has that, that big gasp of relief, that it didn't happen.
Right.
And then a split second later, you see his tail just whip around and take out the whole building and kill him.
Right.
That was scary, That's scary. The 90s Gamera trilogy had scenes that were scary, like actual scary, not just silly big monster stuff. This movie has nothing scary. It's all CGI spectacle like the last one. There's nothing scary about it.
Okay.
Either in what they show or in idea. Like, to me, I always say, like, Alien, which is one of my favorite movies, is a terrifying movie. It's horrible. Aliens is a great movie, but it's not scary. It's not a horror film. It's an action film. It's a very well done action film.
Right.
But there's nothing scary, really. I mean, you can find more scary things. You know what I'm saying? But
I do. Yeah. It's definitely more of an action movie. It's an action movie version of the first one. Right.
The first Godzilla was scary. I think there's other entries that have been quite scary, have parts that were scary. This has nothing scary, but if you wanted to see these two beasts fight, they have two very, very good scenes where they do it well, which is then propelled by some total ridiculous human plot line that makes no sense.
I was going to say, and is the fight more convincing and effective in the original?
I sat down and rewatched it again last week, the original. To me, and I always felt this way as a kid, the best scene in that movie is King Kong with the octopus. They spent way more on that octopus than they did on King Kong. King Kong looks like a guy wrapped up in like a bad bag of carpet samples. It's a horrible looking King Kong. Yeah. I still think someday someone could really make a good Godzilla movie, the way some of them used to be. The way they did with like Gamera versus Iris, that last Gamera movie in that trilogy, that was a good movie. That was a scary movie. And it had some interesting ideas. I like the way Guillermo del Toro basically remade The Creature from the Black Lagoon, and it was done in a smart way, so I know it can be done. I keep waiting for someone to do it. The same way we're all waiting for someone to actually make a real, I love Harry and the Hendersons. That looked great. I love Night of the Demon. But really, like the Bigfoot films, most of them just aren't very good. But someday, someone's going to make, maybe someone will make like a really good, smart Bigfoot movie. And, there have been smart kaiju films. This isn't one of them. But, I still hold out hope. But
all right, Mr. Ben Harley.
Yeah,
that
Fresh
right,
Prince.
The Fresh Prince of Darkness.
Yes.
Mr. Marc. Of course, if we keep up this big debate on the Godzilla and the Bigfoot stuff, shh, come here. I might start teasing him and calling him the Fresh Prince of Dorkness. But let's move forward. I'm teasing Marc. He knows that.
We got a couple dorks. Yes.
No, that's true. We are all dorks. I'm the biggest one. I've got a movie collection that has basically dork written right across my forehead. So we're okay. We're all right. We're all dorks here. All dorks here. So, Mr. Ben Hardy, that was Marc Diamond speaking on Godzilla versus Kong. Now, so kind of summing that up, he enjoyed the film. He thought the human stuff was whatever, but he really he liked the fights, and you guys are both rooting for Godzilla. And again, these are going to be riddled with spoilers, so this is a hands-free conversation. Just say what you're going to say. But Godzilla apparently gets let's just put it this way. He makes up for the weird, bizarre who won that fight in the old Godzilla versus King Kong or King Kong versus Godzilla movie. So Godzilla kind of takes it to King Kong a bit until they have to team up and wrestle somebody else. So you have been nervous for years since I've known you that this is going to be remade and that Godzilla's going to lose. So, and I tried to tell you, Harley, please. You were having a rough weekend. I said, Harley, it's going to lighten your weekend up. Please watch the movie. Did I not beg you? Did I not beg you to watch it? And I did not watch this. I have not watched. I'm not very interested in it. I knew this was going to be a beacon for Mr. Ben, a lighthouse on the stormy seas of Ben Harley's life. I knew this would be a lighthouse. So what'd you think? Are you happy? Are you happy?
Yes, Jim. Actually, very, because like I said, I've never had a movie affect me so much as a child as the original Godzilla vs. King Kong. Right. I don't know why.
Right. For me, it was the Elephant Man. For you. So,
no, I've had other movies that probably affect me a little bit more. But I'm like, I've told you before, my poor mom, she was an English teacher and she had two boys, and I'm sure, she tried to culture my brother. I remember she took him to see Sound of Music, and he ran out of there, ran out of the theater, and, so the poor woman just want, and trust me, I did, learn a lot from her, especially with the Greek mythology and stuff. But I felt for her, and I still laugh to myself thinking this woman actually had to have a serious conversation with a 4 or 5 year old child about a giant lizard fighting a giant monkey, and who won and who didn't, and who's bigger than who and who should, Oh my God! Yes, the poor woman. Oh my God! But yes, very upset. I still have a hard time, and actually, I kind of like the original King Kong versus Godzilla. I just don't like the ending; is kind of wonky and. It doesn't make much sense.
It's good in a goofy way. I mean, it's like one of the most campy, ridiculous, silly movies. Yeah,
it's the ugliest King Kong that was ever made.
As Marc said in his review, he said it looked like a guy wrapped up in carpet remnants. That's exactly awful. What it looks like. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just so awful. And then, what was actually okay, though, was there's a part where he fights octopus. And I'll tell you what, that octopus looks awesome. I mean, still to this day, I think it's one of the coolest looking creatures ever put on film. I really do. It's so awesome.
Right. Again, Marc Diamond said the best part of the original movie was the octopus part. That's exactly what he said. Yes. So you guys are right in line so far. Right.
Yeah. See,
you're trading punches, punch for punch. There you go.
Right. And it is true, though. And, when they get Kong kind of loopy and get him drunk is kind of funny. You know what I mean? But
that is funny. Yeah.
But it's just, anyways. But yes, this new one, Tim, I really did enjoy. Now, there are, the human drama and stuff. It seems like, I think, since the first one, they've kind of listened a little bit, maybe, to the fans. And I think they really got this one right as far as the human drama and the monster scenes, giving them both enough space on screen.
Right.
That you're not getting tired of one or the other. Because I will tell you, some of the fight scenes in some of these movies, not just really Godzilla, but a lot of these movies that I do like, get a little bit over, there is just over the top, and how much can one person take, or one monster, or you know what I mean? It's just come on now, Yeah, this was pretty good though, Tim. Like, and I think really the CGI in this is really good too. And I have a real problem with that.
On that, and I do too. I really do, and I know it's done. It's done really well. I understand that. This is part of what I loved about these. It's sort of like a lot of people, and I do not disagree with this. With the Godzilla movies, I was kidding about this earlier, but with the Godzilla movies, I want them dubbed. I want them dubbed. I mean, I at least want to be able to watch them dubbed because they're funny. I mean, it's part of the entertainment of these movies is wanting them dubbed. And so it's the same thing with the rubber suits. It's part of what I enjoy about it. Now, I have no problem with everybody really digging these movies today, though, because they do clearly look way more sophisticated. And in a way, too, Tim, and I've been like this for a long time, as much as I have told you before, I love the original Batman television show. I want to see Batman done like Shakespeare, okay? Same thing with Godzilla. I love the old Godzilla. And Smog Monster is still my favorite movie of Godzilla. Will probably always be my favorite Godzilla movie. Now, that one is one of the most silliest ones that was ever made by far. Right.
It's bizarre. I still love it, though.
Godzilla fans do love that movie. And Marc even mentioned that when I was talking to him about this movie, too, is that I told him that I missed some of the scariness, of some of the movies, and he was talking about how he thought Godzilla versus Smog Monster. Smog Monster was kind of scary when it fly over people and turn them into like jelly skeletons and stuff. Yeah. And so, I totally agree with you. It's a different time and a different era of Godzilla movies, though, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. And and that's okay too. I just the first Godzilla was good. I think they've kind of ramped up as they've gone along, but this one just, I didn't really have too many problems with this one. Like, some of the other ones I'm like, that was kind of wonky, or I don't know if I like that so much, or there's too much human drama, blah, blah, blah. But this one seems to have everything kind of just perfect. But basically it starts off, we think Kong is on Kong Island, but they have him like in a habitat, basically, and he knows that it's like a virtual reality type place, almost,
That's interesting.
And and because they don't want to let him out, because if they do, Godzilla will come for him. Because basically Godzilla just keeps coming, So that's why they're trying to keep Kong, under wraps, because if Godzilla knows he's out there, Godzilla will come for him. So
gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So there's people that are trying to protect Kong and stuff like that. Well, there's an underlying plot to the story too, about this gentleman whose brother. The reason that the monsters are able to travel across the planet so fast is because of you've probably heard of this, the Hollow Earth theory.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that one of the gentlemen in the movie, his brother had tried to find it, and they were killed. So there's a rich guy now who wants to find this stuff. So they're basically using. They want to use King Kong to go down there and find, the Hollow Earth, stuff like that. Well, as they're transporting Kong, Godzilla shows up. And there's a battle while they're on a couple like aircraft carriers, and it's actually pretty cool. There's a little bit of a Jaws influence in there. You see Godzilla show up, and all you can see is the back fins of it.
That's another thing that Marc mentioned too. He said you can see like a dorsal fin type of thing with Godzilla, and he said it was really noticeable if you're a Jaws fan.
Yeah, definitely. And then it kind of cuts through a ship, and it's a really good scene. It's a pretty good, intense monster fight, with battleships and stuff like that. But it's Godzilla kind of, like I said, he wins the first round, and then they fight again a little bit later. But I mean, the movie itself, Tim, is actually pretty darn good. The reason I was kind of upset at the beginning, though, before I watched it, is in the previews, they kept saying stuff like, Kong bows to no one. The world needs Kong. And I'm like, that's why I was more upset. I was like, oh boy, they're gonna put it to Godzilla.
Well, that's what Marc was saying too, that the build up to this was not making him happy any more than it was making you happy, because he did say that whole build up made it sound like Kong was going to have to win because he was the good guy of the story. That's kind of what it was alluding to. And I think they swerved you guys. I think they swerved you pretty good.
Which was good. they kind of don't know why Godzilla keeps showing. He shows up to. But I think it's Apex. I think the place is called Apex, and they're the ones that are building the stuff to help go to to the Hollow Earth and stuff like that. But Godzilla shows up and attacks like their facility, and you really don't know why, and then you just think that Godzilla is just running rampant and just destroying stuff because he's pissed off. But no, there's a reason why he is pissed off and why he keeps showing up at these different places. So they basically use Kong to fight Godzilla. They do take Kong down to the Middle Earth there, whatever, Hollow Earth, and Kong kind of, it's almost like it's his home. Like he finds a big axe. Like at that point, I'm like, oh boy, here it is. They're really going to put it to Godzilla now, but they don't. They end up, there's a couple good fight scenes, and then Godzilla. There's towards the end, there's the big, battle royal there or whatever. Not battle royal, but big final, battle, and it's actually pretty good. Like, I mean, they duke it out, Tim, to the point where, like, holy crap! Like, I mean, they duke it out. It's really kind of good. Like, they. I feel it's almost like a wrestling match at times. There's heads being slammed into the buildings like you would slam a guy's head in the turnbuckle.
Right.
And stuff like that. But it's really good. But yeah, Kong has this axe that he uses, and he uses it a little bit on Godzilla and kind of wins like the second round. Kind of puts Godzilla down, but then Godzilla gets back up, and Kong's kind of trying to hide a little bit, and he ends up finding Kong again and really puts the whooping on him. Before that, they do show the reason Godzilla showed up to that Apex place is because they're building a Mega Godzilla, Tim.
Mecha Godzilla.
Yeah, Mecha, yeah.
Gotcha.
Mecha, yeah, Godzilla, yeah. So it's cool. There's one part where they show, because what happens, the Mecha Godzilla is being like, there's a gentleman that can sit and actually move the Mecha Godzilla.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Like, it's got like a controller thing.
Yeah. But it's kind of hooked through his mind. It's funny because one of the monsters in Kong Island is called like the Skull Crusher or something or whatever, and it's funny they bring that thing out to fight Mecha Godzilla, and Mecha Godzilla just within like 10 seconds just blows this. I mean, just burns this thing completely up and tears it in half. Like, and you're like, wow, because those things were pretty tough.
Jet Jaguar.
Oh, it got a beating, buddy. Oh my goodness, it was like, wow. I mean, it's really intense part too. Like, wow, like so.
This sounds like this sounds like to me a little bit like from what Marc was saying and what you're saying is that it's almost like a cross between King Kong versus Godzilla, which that's the title of the first one, isn't it? Isn't it King Kong versus Godzilla, or is it Godzilla versus King Kong? I thought it was Godzilla. I thought it was King Kong versus Godzilla.
King Kong.
I get screwed up. So this sounds like kind of cross between that a little bit, and then Godzilla versus Mecha Godzilla, or the Terror, the Terror Mecha Godzilla, or whatever. But
because there were two of them, the first was just Mecha Godzilla, and then there was Terror Mecha Godzilla.
Right, and so Godzilla usually pals up with somebody that gets his ass kicked through a lot of it and stuff like that. Yeah. But it's definitely needed because it seems like it's kind of harkening back to the movies where Godzilla gets a buddy and they need a tag team. Yeah. A more powerful foe or whatever. And it's kind of what Marc was alluding to as well. So someone who cared a lot and loved those old Godzilla movies, there were people, let's put it that way, who love those old Godzilla movies that were definitely a part of this, that made sure that those elements were there. Is that fair?
Yes, yeah, definitely.
You think that's why you like it? Now, Marc did say this wasn't a great movie, though. He said it's still not the Godzilla movie you guys are looking for. But he said it's very satisfying for what it is, he said. Yes,
definitely. And I mean, with the addition of Mechagodzilla, I thought it was great. Really, it just because when it comes busting out of that mountain, it doesn't look. To tell you the truth, I kind of like the original Mechagodzilla, which can kind of look silly, but it looks a little bit more like Godzilla, I think, than this one does. But this one, looks a little bit more like believable, I guess, of how something would look nowadays like that.
Right.
But boy, it comes out and kicks the shit out of Godzilla for a little bit. Oh, wow. Wow. Just beats the G. But
Mechagodzilla was the one that you knew that could probably take it to Godzilla. You know, like even those old movies. I mean, I think besides that, the Smog Monster gave him probably the most trouble. But I think the Mechagodzilla, like all things being equal, is probably his, I guess you call his arch enemy, the one that was really tough for Godzilla to put down. Yeah. Godzilla never did put down Mechagodzilla on his own, did he?
I think at one point he might have.
Okay. You know, I know he showed up more times than I'm aware of because he came around a little bit later in the series too.
But usually that's what happened. I know in the original one, he put the beating on Godzilla at the beginning too, you know. So this one, he just comes out, but then again, Godzilla had just got done fighting King Kong, so you know he's already kind of whooped anyhow. But it actually looked really good. The Mechagodzilla moved well. You know, it was good. You know, and then King Kong, they saved King Kong because he's dying. Well, they save him. You know, I thought they were going to break out an artificial heart at one point.
No, that's not the homage we want, Harley. It's not the homage we're looking for. No, not even me. No,
I was like,
oh my god! I saw that in the theater and I came out dazed and confused. I'm like,
oh my god!
Did I just look at? Was that? I mean, I think I was more excited about looking at Linda Hamilton for an hour and a half than anything else going on in that movie whatsoever. You know?
That movie's awful. Oh my god!
So now Godzilla didn't fly, did he? He didn't like turn around and curl his tail up and shoot backwards with his flames or anything, did he? Okay, all right.
No.
Well, let me ask. Okay, so you've been tentative about this for over a year now. So are you pleasantly surprised?
Yes, actually, I am. I enjoyed it much more than I thought I was going to.
Where would you put it in in this new little rash of movies? Like, where would you put it?
I think it's the best one.
Is it the best one? I think
it's the best one. Yeah, so far. I think for me, satisfyingly, or you know, it is for me. I do like a lot of the stuff from the original Godzilla, but that's the thing. There's only like maybe 15 minutes of Godzilla on film, you know, throughout the whole thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
that's interesting because that's what Marc was talking about too. And I told him, see, that's the one I liked more because it was more of a horror movie. And he agreed.
Sure.
He said, it is more of a horror film. And I said, you guys, I think are digging this fighting thing, but I don't like, here's the thing. I don't like watching CG fights because I don't really like watching cartoon fights either. I want to see a fight. Like when the guys in the rubber suits are fighting, at least it's two dudes like bumping into each other, even though they can't see each other probably. They're bumping into each other and sumoing it out and doing things like that. And it's kind of funny in a way, and it's exhilarating. You know, it's like, oh yeah, here we go. With the CG, it's almost like they can do anything. So nothing is impressive to me. And I lose my suspension of disbelief too much because I've seen too many movies. I just don't have it much anymore. And these kinds of movies don't help. The CG doesn't help because it pulls me right out of it. That all being said, I'm really glad to hear that you guys really like this, though. I mean, that's very. I think that's great because, first of all, I just don't want to have to hear you guys upset about it for the next couple of years.
One thing, I don't blame you there.
But I think it's a nice, almost cathartic, maybe, because I know that there's a huge. See, I'm a King Kong guy and a Godzilla guy.
Yeah.
I don't really care who. I think them both. I mean, I think they're so different that putting them together is almost haphazard to begin with. I'm actually just glad to hear that you guys are liking this. You know, and I will see this.
I'm happy to.
I will see it.
You'll like it. I mean, it's okay. It's not the greatest thing you'll ever see, but it's. I enjoyed it. Actually, you know, after watching It Part 2 right after it, I was like, wow, I really enjoyed that King Kong a lot better. You know, like.
So would you give Godzilla vs. Kong a grape ape up or?
Yeah, definitely.
How about out of 5 stars? What would you do?
4.
4? Okay.
4. Yeah. I just like seeing Godzilla on screen. I just can't. My favorite actor, you know.
Right, absolutely. Well, I would. I you guys are very happy that Godzilla definitely bested Kong in this, but I would say that the Marc Diamond versus Ben Harley battle is a draw.
Yes.
You guys both liked it, and I think you guys can both.
And I'm glad to hear that he liked it.
Yeah,
as well,
yeah. You guys are very similar, almost exactly the same things you guys noticed and enjoyed and didn't enjoy and stuff like that. So very good.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right.
Okay,
now I have given enough time here to Godzilla versus Kong. And I didn't have to watch it yet. See, there you go.
Yeah.
I will see it eventually. I'll just wait for it to come on Blu-ray or something like that. And I'll look at it. So let's get to our official film, Mr. Ben Harley, for this week.
Let's do that, buddy.
From 1963.
63.
Yes. We have the movie Diary of a Madman.
Yeah.
Yes. Not only is it a Ozzy Osbourne record, but it is also a Vincent Price movie. So let's let me get out movie guy. Oh, I was just a little quick little mention here. You'll like this, Harley. I was a guest on the Cinema Degeneration, Cameron Scott's show, and we were talking about the car. And he actually,
how'd it go?
It went well, but he actually he invoked movie guy. He had movie guy read the synopsis, the plot line synopsis for the car.
Nice.
So movie guy's making cameos now. So
yeah, good. He's on the road.
Yeah, well, I want a percentage off his cut because I'm telling you right now, I'm his manager if nothing else. So
that's
all right, well, let's get out the famous movie guy and give you a short storyline here for Diary of a Madman. All right, here we go.
Okay. All right.
An evil spirit leaves the body of its human host, a criminal on death row, and sneaks into the body of its next human host, a French magistrate. That's like a 2-year-old wrote it. Okay, so
it is.
Vincent Price, yes, is a French magistrate, like a judge.
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah. And so, he goes and visits somebody on death row who wants to talk to him or whatever. And this guy claims, I guess he's sort of a gentleman. And this guy claims, I couldn't kill him. I have a problem. He has a parasitic evil entity attached to him. A Horla.
A Horla. Yeah, that's a bad name. Yeah.
Listen, you're a Horla.
Horla. Yeah.
I want to see if you can actually get someone to fight you if you call them a Horla. Just do it. I just want to see if somebody I'm not fighting you till I know what the fuck that is, man. Come on. So anyway, so it is. It's like one of these jumping possessive spirits, like evil entities called a Horla or whatever.
And they say they've been on the earth as long as humans or something, right?
Yes. And so basically what it says is Vincent Price, his life coming apart. Yeah. Basically because this Horla has been attached to him. So, and it does attach to himself via a visit to a death row inmate. Yeah. And so he goes and talks to this death row inmate. And the thing is, I kind of want to speak about this because it was one of the things in the movie I had to rewind a few times. So this guy is like set to, what is he? He's going to be hung or shot? I can't remember if he's going to be shot or he's going to be hung.
Oh, it's a guillotine. That's
that's right. A hot steak is better than a cold chop, as Curly would say. Yeah. So anyway, so he's going to get his head sliced off and stuff. So when this inmate guy is trying to explain to Vincent Price, it isn't him, that he has this entity, this Horla on him. And Vincent Price, of course, doesn't believe him and stuff. Well, what do we have, Mr. Ben Harley? Last week we reviewed a movie called Galaxy of Terror, right? Right. And what was the linchpin of that movie? What was the thing of that movie? It was master transmission.
Yes, master transmission.
So I think I even remember at the end of last week jokingly saying, well, I don't know what we're doing next week, Mr. Ben Harley, but it better not have master transmission in it. Well, I'll be damned if the first thing we're watching this movie, there's master transmission. The Horla transmits from the guy over to Vincent Price. But what's funny is
some green glowing eyes thing.
Yeah, they got googly eyes aglow, and that's how that's one of the telltale signs that the Horla is getting frisky. He's going to do something, whatever. But they get into a fight basically, and Vincent Price knocks the guy against his cell wall, which is supposedly made of like cinder blocks and things like that. Right. Now, I don't know if you caught what I caught. What's that? Okay, so when the guy gets thrown against the wall, he's like laying there for a minute. Yeah. And then he slumps over. And then that's when you realize. Now, when he slumps over, he rolls his head across the wall, and it is sponge. You can see the sponge go down and pop out. They're not rocks; those are sponges. They're painted sponges. You know, nobody saw. I was watching Angie, and I start laughing. I'm like, "You gotta be kidding me!" And Angie starts laughing at something different. I'm like, "Oh, you didn't see that?" She goes, "No, I rewound it," and she started dying laughing. Like, "Oh my god!" I go, "Yeah." I go, "Man, it was bad." It didn't even show up in a goof on IMDb. I checked for it. You know, I was like, "Oh my god." So anyway, so now the Horla has attached itself to Price, but the movie is not him immediately going all Horla'd out. The movie is a slow descent into the Horla taking over Vincent Price.
Yeah, but he keeps showing up, and it's almost like he's a specter or whatever, and he you know, and like a window will blow open or something, you know, and a chair will fall over. And then,
so what happens is Vincent Price will be minding his own business, and then the windows blow open or something, or his eyes get all like buggy, and then he hears like a disembodied voice, like these entities' voice speaking to him. Basically, he has voices in his head. Is really what it is. But then you have these like mild supernatural things, and this is to me like where the movie can, I don't know if show its age is right, or just kind of like you didn't need that. So there's like these supernatural things, like Vincent Price will be standing in a room and all of a sudden a painting will float across the room, clearly on strings.
On strings,
Completely.
I've watched a lot of Thunderbirds lately, Tim, so I know. You see,
they're much better. No, Thunderbirds is much better effects than what I was seeing in this movie here. You know, these were done with strings and flashlights. All the effects in this. So whenever you see like windows or doors blow open and voices, you know that Vincent Price is basically going Hyde. It's like a Jekyll and Hyde thing. You know that the Horla is taking over Price, and so Price is doing things like Vincent Price normally as a magistrate is a good guy. He's a just man and stuff. And so this Horla is really turning him into an evil person to the point where he meets a lovely young lady on the street. Yes.
She's a creep, though.
Yes. Odette, played by Nancy Kovac, who played Medea in Jason the Argonauts.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay.
So that's where she's from.
Nice. Yeah.
And so she wants to pose for him because he's also an artist.
Yes.
He's also an artist. He makes clay.
Used to be,
he used to be. Yeah. So he fiddles around with clay and he likes to do this stuff. It's like a hobby of his. Yeah. So he hires, and he's got some money. He's got a few coins to rub together. So he hires apparently a very good price.
£10 or whatever.
Odette. He hires Odette to pose for him and stuff. And this is this is just where things get weird. You kind of don't know, is Price doing this like on the up and up, or is the Horla speaking here? You know the Horla is going to be involved. He's going to go to Jekyll Hyde, you know, eventually and stuff. But the movie itself is an interesting little story, and it just, as soon as anything supernatural happens, it's all done with like fans, strings, and flashlights. Yeah. And it's not very scary or compelling or anything.
No, there's not a lot of, a lot of this movie too is there's a lot of the human drama, because Odette also has a husband.
Yes.
Who's a kind of I wouldn't say starving artist.
Yeah, he is. He basically is. And they're separated, but they're still married technically. Yeah.
Well, as soon as she goes over and starts posing for Vincent Price, then she knows that she can move on up, if you know what I mean, Tim.
Right, yes.
And so she moves on out to move on up. Yeah, and which, is like, because also Vincent Price's character had lost his wife. And so the Horla also says, well, you're a murderer too. And he says, no, I'm not. And he says, yes, you are. You drove your wife to commit suicide. You know what I mean? And so that really makes Vincent Price like kind of it makes him a little nuttier. You know what I mean, too?
Right,
and so he's
definitely a man who's lost. And Vincent Price plays this character very well, especially like in a lot of the Roger Corman, Edgar Allan Poe adaptations. But he's not quite as... In this one, he's not quite as depressed. It's not like it's something that... not that he's happy about it, but he has like a painting. He has a painting up on his wall that... Well, he doesn't, but there's a painting that appears of his kids, his wife and kid. And that's where he's like... Things start happening around the house. He starts blaming everyone else for. Yeah. And he starts wondering if he's a sleepwalker and stuff. Because the Horla apparently is causing him to do things he doesn't remember them. So he's putting things around the house and misplacing things and doing weird stuff. Almost like the Horla kind of teasing him in a way, like toying with him in a way.
Yeah, and the thing is as well is like their son had died, so he would blame his wife for the death of their son, and that's all what caused her to commit suicide. So, throughout the whole thing, you're just thinking, man, he's, I know he's depressed. Is this stuff really going on? Is it really happening, or is it just in his mind? Is he losing his mind because of these other things, Well,
I agree with you. The problem, I agree with you too, but the problem that I have is that, like for instance, he has, first of all, let's just talk about the butler guy, Ian Wolfe. Yeah. I love that guy, that actor.
Yeah, he
plays Pierre the butler. He's in I could tell you what he's in. He probably has like 700 credits. I mean, the guy is just
yeah.
The guy was working from the womb. He's been like in everything. So, like, there's a moment where Price, I guess he goes up like into his attic or something, and he sees something written in the dust. And he's like, and he calls for Ian Wolfe. He calls for Pierre. He goes, Pierre, come up. We are, by the way, in like 1886 France, by the way. Yeah. I thought the magistrate and all this stuff would kind of maybe suffice it. But anyway, so he's yelling, Pierre, come on, I'm writing in the dust. Well, when Pierre comes over, there's nothing written in the dust. So therefore, you're right. You think this stuff is in Vincent Price's mind. I'm buying it.
Yes.
All this stuff like floating around on strings and stuff in the rooms, I'm buying what you're saying because he's always by himself. So I get that. However, there's a point where Odette's estranged husband, he's pissed. Like he's mad. Like he does not, he's fighting for it. He doesn't, something's wrong here. And it's kind of weird because they were kind of estranged to begin with a little bit, but at the same time, they weren't separated enough where this should be happening. Let's just put it that way. It wasn't time yet. So he comes and he basically is going to confront Vincent Price to fight for Odette. And when he's leaving, the Horla starts doing the same thing. So he leaves and the doors fly open. The Horla is talking to Vincent Price saying, kill him, kill him.
Kill him. Yeah.
And he's like,
you can't make me kill him.
Right, exactly. And then all of a sudden, this big piece of pottery or something like falls off. It's pulled off a wall and almost falls onto the husband. Yeah. Well, that was clearly the Horla. So all of a sudden now, you have things happening to other people. The supernatural stuff. So now it's not just in Vincent Price's mind. Right. That, to me, is where it falls apart. And if you ask me, this movie needed to be, and I don't usually like this, but this movie needed to be a lot more subtle. You needed to never really know, is there something really bothering Price, or is he just going mad because of the guilt of his family?
Sure.
Because he doesn't act like it a whole lot. He doesn't act very depressed. No. And so you're thinking, and he's like kind of moving on. Of course, the Horla is kind of possessing him, I guess.
Yeah.
But and here, the effects are silly, too. I mean, they're downright silly. There's nothing even mildly scary in this movie.
No.
This is a situational thriller, like a psychological kind of thing. There's really nothing. You're not really much on the edge of your seat. Let's put it that way. It's an interesting, macabre tale, I guess you could say, or whatever. But don't you agree? Like, it's sort of, you did not need all the supernatural stuff. Don't you agree? I mean, like, it was too much almost.
Yeah, especially at times, because then the horror would show up and then we just be laughing at them and making fun of them. Mm-hmm. And then he actually does get Vincent Price to go kill Odette, you know. And then, I don't know, Tim, it didn't have a whole lot to drag me into it. I mean, it was just, it was okay watching it, but I was just like, I said, yeah, you're right. I never really was scared. I never had any kind of creeped out feeling. It was kind of like a love story, a little bit with, I don't know. Yeah.
A love story, sort of like almost like a Dorian Gray would be a love story, though.
Yeah.
Like kind of a dark, this has more to do with sort of selling your soul to the devil. But he doesn't really sell his soul. He gets kind of like torpedoed by the devil. Yeah. Like he kind of gets shanghaied by him, you know, basically, or whatever. And I just don't, I mean, and the, you know, it's not like you're sitting there going, how do they do that? You know, like when their eyes glow, it's clearly like a flashlight shooting in their face. They got to hold real still. Hold real still so it stays on your eyes and stuff. And it's not that the movie, it's not that it's pulling its punches. It just isn't that it's throwing very many.
No. And it's just like, I guess the Horla just really wants to drive him mad and, I don't know, just torture him, torment him.
Right.
You know, and that's pretty much it. Like, I don't think he really wants to kill Vincent Price. He just wants to torment him.
Well, or
ruin his name, I guess.
Right. So it's an evil parasite. The story, I should say, was written by an author, Guy de Maupassant. He wrote what would become Black Sabbath. And actually, the film version of that also came out in 1963 by Mario Bava, who we have. Yeah. We actually did review Black Sabbath. That's the one where Boris Karloff is like the creepy old vampire type creature. There's like 3 stories in it, and he's like the creepy vampire story wanting to kill his whole family. Basically in that last one. So it's sort of a famous old author. There's actually some striking similarities to The Black Room. Did you notice that? Because we just did that with Boris Karloff, where Boris Karloff is kind of he's manipulating the situation. He's like just like in this film, he's trying to frame the boyfriend for the death of Odette, and that's a death that he did. And Boris Karloff was doing the same thing in The Black Room. So there are some striking similarities I noticed. At least to that. Just a sort of underhanded thing. It's sort of like a psychological thriller romance.
Yeah. I'll give you that, Tim. And it's just, like I said, it's okay. I just, there wasn't a lot that made me kind of go, oh, wow. It's just. Right. I don't know, Tim.
No, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Let's see. It was directed by Reginald Laborg. Who did Voodoo Island, did The Black Sleep, The Mummy's Ghost. He did Jungle Woman, actually, which is cool. And he also did, I think, at least 3 of the Inner Sanctum movies with Lon Chaney in it. So he was a working director. Okay. Yeah, he's done some decent stuff. I just think what he was given here was one of these movies, and I've been kind of running into these lately, too. They look good. They sound good. They're performed awfully well. Yes, clearly, people who knew what they were doing were all on hand to make this come to life. These films and this movie or something. It just is. I don't know who it's for, and it's one of those movies where it's almost embarrassed to be a horror film on some level. So it wants to be romantic and it wants to have the costume and the lavish dramas and all the wonderful music and stuff in it, but yet it still wants to kind of try to masquerade around as some kind of horror film, and it's pulling in 2 different directions. And I like a Phantom of the Opera type of story, which is the failure of those stories is if it goes too far toward the music and the romance. You've lost me if you do that. If you go toward the horror part and the deformed part of the Phantom, I'm on board with you more. And in what he's doing. And this one is kind of right down the middle. And it's frustrating. Yeah.
It's just, there could have been a little bit more of the Horla. But like you said, the Horla, it just wasn't really scary either. It was almost it was just like this disembodied voice, and then it would knock the chair over every so often, or it would, and you kind of knew when it was coming, okay, here it's going to come now. Here comes the
Right. It didn't sneak up on you. Didn't sneak up on anybody, that's for sure. Yeah.
No, and it just didn't really make. That didn't make a lot of sense. But even when they were reading his will or the diary at the end, it's they really believed it. I'm thinking that kind of was a lot to swallow.
Right. Well, we should probably mention the reason it's called Diary of the Madman is that what the film is set up where it starts at the end. It starts after everything has already happened, and then Vincent Price left a diary of everything that had gone on in his life. So becoming infected by the Horla and all the things leading up to the finale of this film, which, to be frank with you, is a head scratcher. It's okay, so you have a ghost basically, or a invisible presence, let's say, that is attaching itself to you. So you lock doors and set yourself on fire.
Yeah.
Ben Harley, let me tell you something. if we're ever now we're pals here, and you need to do this to me as a friend, okay?
Yes.
Now, if I ever tell you that I am being menaced by a disembodied spirit, and I tell you I think the thing I should do is to lock myself in my shed and light it on fire, would you please advise me to maybe go a different route?
Yeah, go a different way. Yeah.
Please, I'd appreciate it.
Yes.
Thank you. As a friend, could you do that for me, please?
Yeah. Yes, I will, buddy.
All right, thanks.
And
he locked the damn thing in with him to light it on fire, so he's going to go up in flames with the Horla. So everybody goes up in flames, and I guess he takes care of the Horla. I don't know. Listen, that's the problem with the movie. It's like, first of all, the Horla, I don't even know if it was invented by that guy de Maupassant or whatever. I don't know. If it was, but in the beginning, it has a quote from him. If you remember the very opening of the film, it's a quote. It's we ride horses, we do this. Well, that's what the Horla does to humans. It attaches itself to us, and then it makes us as its cattle, basically. That's what the opening thing says. So it's kind of setting up for what this is. But I don't know if this was like an old legend or if it's something this dude made up. I don't know. And I didn't care enough to even really look into it. So this is not, it's a good movie. It's not a good horror film.
No.
So
really.
I'm going to give this, and I mean that, a super, super, super mild grape ape up. And let me explain it.
Okay.
Just because I think the movie is done well, you can get through it. And Vincent Price, it goes from acting like pretty good to being funny.
Yes.
Like somebody sort of yelled, "Cut, Vincent, you're going a little silly." And that makes it entertaining in kind of a laughable way. But it's more of a curious film if you want to see old Hollywood. Type of stuff.
It's Tim, I can't really poop on it, but I can't really give it I don't know. You know what?
Okay, you're pooping on it. And I'm going to give it a mile. So basically, if you even it out, we don't know what to do with this movie because it's almost not even a horror film, but it's one of those things where it's like, get the painting, this painting floating across the room on the string and the table knocking over. It's like, how do they do that? It's just not. It reminds me of something that like a grandma would watch on Halloween when she wanted to see something spooky, but not something that was really going to bother her.
Right. Exactly.
That makes sense. Like something.
It's because it's just like a chest drawer or a chest opening, and then something floating out of it just doesn't. I don't know. It's not spooky to me.
No. It's about as scary as a Three Stooges haunted house episode, basically.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah. And it's not terribly, I don't think it's terribly interesting because you really don't know what you're dealing with. And then you really don't care because you're like, oh, for God's sake, Vincent, just ignore the voice. Stop, just cut it out, or whatever. So you're going to give it and I'm going to give it a very, very mild. Yeah. I think both of us, what we're saying is we're on the fence. It's really, it's not, we didn't really like it a lot, but it's not a bad movie. We just didn't like it.
No, it's not.
Is that fair?
Just didn't like it. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Thank you.
All right. So there you go. So there's our difficulty in kind of rating the film. So, but anyway, so how we're squaring it is you're pooping on it and I'm giving it the mildest of mild grape apes up. I mean, we're talking not even cigar ashes in it.
Right.
And things like that. So. All right. Sure. Well, let's get out of here, Mr. Ben Harley. Thanks to Marc Diamond and yourself for sparring on
Thanks, Marc.
Godzilla vs. Kong film next week.
Thank you, Tim, for letting us talk about it. Thank you.
Absolutely. I was very fascinated, especially after hearing you talk about it and hearing you guys both basically say the same things. I guess that's how the movie is. I guess you guys are right. So. But next week we're going to have Marc back. We have a second part of our conversation where, what happened last time is we did have him back on talking about sharksploitation, and then we all watched Mako. And you can't just let Mako go without commenting on it. So basically next week we let Marc come in and give his 2 cents on Mako and a couple other things. I think we just discussed Grizzly and Day of the Animals a little bit and things like that. But we'll have him back on kind of blowing off some steam, let's say. And have that. And then I don't know what the movie's going to be. I'm not going to say nothing about Master Transmission, though, because if I say we're not going to have it, we're going to end up having it again. And I'm done with Master Transmission already. I'm done with it. My master transmission is transmitted back and forth so many times, I'm not sure who to listen to anymore. I don't know. So, all right. Well,
look out for the Horla, brother.
Yeah. I'm not really too worried about the Horla. The Horla, I'm not. Yeah, that's not. I don't feel like it's a menacing presence in my world anymore. No. So, but all right, Mr. Ben, let's get out of here. So, all you deep thinkers, stay safe, be good to each other, and we'll be right back here next week. So, stay spooky, and we'll talk to you then.
Keep it creepy, people.
You've been listening to the Timo and Harley Show, brought to you by ScreenPrintingFactory.com, your affordable one-stop solution to all your screen printing needs.
Green